The wind howled through the dusty trading post at the edge of the mountains, carrying with it the smell of horses, sweat, and desperation. Men gathered in a rough circle near the wooden platform, where unwanted goods were sold, broken wagons, tired mules, and sometimes people whose lives had fallen through the cracks of the frontier. Lanterns swung overhead as evening settled across the valley, painting long shadows across hardened faces. Nobody laughed here. Nobody smiled. This was a place where loneliness was heavier than gold. Elias Boone stood apart from the crowd, boots planted firmly in the dirt. Folks called him the Mountain Man. He lived where winter never truly left, high beyond the pine ridges where wolves sang at night. He came down only twice a year to trade pelts, buy supplies, and remind himself that civilization still existed. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a beard touched by frost and eyes shaped by years of solitude, Elias was a man who spoke little but saw everything. He had not come looking for trouble. He certainly had not come looking for a wife. Yet fate had other plans. A trader climbed onto the platform and clapped his hands loudly. "Last offering tonight," he shouted. "A bride contract. Strong worker, obedient, no family ties." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Two men dragged forward a small figure wrapped in a plain dress. A rough burlap sack covered her head completely, tied tightly at the neck. She stumbled as she walked, nearly falling before steadying herself. Laughter broke out among some of the watching men. "Why the sack?" someone shouted. The trader shrugged. "She's been rejected twice already. No refunds." More laughter followed, cruel and sharp. Elias felt something twist inside his chest. Rejected twice. On the frontier, rejection meant survival was unlikely. Without protection, a woman alone rarely lasted long. One of the ranchers stepped forward, lifted the edge of the sack slightly, and immediately stepped back. "Nope," he muttered. "Not worth it." Another man tried. Same reaction. A shake of the head. A dismissive wave. Coins stayed in pockets. The woman didn't move. Didn't speak. She simply stood there, hands trembling at her sides while strangers judged her without even seeing her fully. Elias watched longer than he meant to. He recognized that silence, the silence of someone who had stopped hoping. The trader sighed dramatically. "Final chance. Cheap price." Still no takers. The woman's shoulders lowered just slightly, as if she already knew how this would end. Something inside Elias broke. Maybe it was the memory of winter spent alone with nothing but firelight and regret. Maybe it was the way the crowd laughed. Maybe it was because he understood what it felt like to be unwanted. Before he realized it, Elias stepped forward. "I'll take her." The laughter stopped. Every head turned. The trader blinked. "You serious, Mountain Man?" Elias tossed a small leather pouch onto the platform. Coins clinked. Loudly. "That enough?" The trader grinned greedily. "More than enough." The rope tying the woman's wrists was cut. The contract was signed. Just like that, her fate changed. She still said nothing. Elias approached slowly, careful not to frighten her. Up close, he noticed how thin she was, how tightly she held herself, as if expecting pain. "Come on," he said gently. "You're coming with me." She followed without resistance. The crowd whispered as they passed. Man bought himself trouble. She must be ugly as sin. Mountain Man's gone mad. Elias ignored them. Outside the trading post, night air cooled the dust. Horses snorted softly nearby. Elias helped her onto his wagon, noticing how cautiously she moved, as if afraid every action might earn punishment. He climbed up beside her, taking the reins. For several minutes they rode in silence under the rising moon. Finally he spoke. "You don't have to keep that sack on." She stiffened. Her hands tightened in her lap. "No one's forcing you," he added quietly. Still, she didn't move. Elias slowed the wagon and stopped near a ridge overlooking the valley. Fireflies blinked in the grass below, and the world felt suddenly peaceful, far away from judgmental eyes. He stepped down first and lit a lantern. Soft golden light filled the space between them. Then he reached gently toward the knot at her neck. "I'm going to untie it," he said. "All right." A long pause followed. Then, barely noticeable, she nodded. Elias loosened the rope carefully and lifted the burlap sack away. The moment the fabric cleared her face, he gasped, not from disappointment, from shock. Her face was strikingly beautiful, but it wasn't beauty alone that stole his breath. It was the deep sadness in her eyes, the kind carried by someone who had endured too much too young. A faint scar traced along her cheek, not disfiguring but telling a story of survival. Her eyes shimmered in the lantern light. Uncertain, waiting for rejection again, she braced herself, waiting for him to turn away like the others. Elias didn't. Instead, he stepped back slightly, overwhelmed. "They rejected you?" he whispered. She swallowed hard. "People see the scar first. They think it means trouble." Her voice was soft but steady. Elias shook his head slowly. "All I see is someone who's been stronger than most." For the first time, surprise crossed her face. No mockery, no disgust. Just honesty. "What's your name?" he asked. "Clara." "Well, Clara," Elias said, offering a small smile rarely seen by anyone. "Looks like you just became the lady of a mountain cabin." She almost laughed, almost. The journey to the mountains took 2 days. At first, Clara spoke little, watching everything cautiously. But Elias treated her not as property, not as an obligation, but as a partner in travel. He shared food equally, asked her opinions, and never raised his voice. Slowly, she relaxed. By the time they reached the pine forest, she was asking questions. "You really live all the way up here?" "Been my home 15 years. "Alone?" "Until now." The cabin appeared between towering trees, simple, sturdy, surrounded by wildflowers fighting through rocky soil. Clara stepped down from the wagon and looked around in awe. "It's beautiful." Elias rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Needs work." But Clara smiled faintly. "It feels safe." That word struck him deeply. Safe. Days turned into weeks. Clara learned mountain life quickly, fetching water, cooking beside the hearth, laughing when snow surprised her in early mornings. Elias found himself talking more than he had in years. The silence that once felt peaceful now felt alive with companionship. One evening, as snow fell gently outside, Clara sat by the fire. "Why did you buy me?" she asked softly. Elias thought for a long moment. "Because nobody deserves to feel unwanted." Her eyes filled with emotion. "And now?" she asked. He met her gaze. "Now I'm grateful they didn't see what I did." The fire crackled between them, warmth spreading far beyond the cabin walls. For the first time since arriving, Clara's smile reached her eyes. And high in the mountains, where loneliness once ruled, 2 wounded souls began building something neither had expected. A home, a partnership, and perhaps love born not from perfection, but from acceptance. If you enjoyed this powerful Western love story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable mountain man romances, frontier legends, and emotional stories that keep you hooked until the very last moment. Your support helps bring more epic stories to life every week.